A few years ago, we created a series of videos and a web page called One Bed Veg. It shows how in this bed we grew 15 different herbs and vegetables, 154 pounds of food. This video shows highlights from that series, and for more detailed information, check out the web page and a YouTube playlist called One Bed Veg. Planting starts now. Let's grow some food.
What we're trying to do is demonstrate what we would do if we had just one 4x10 garden bed.
Most of our beds are built with 50-50 soil and compost. And then you can, especially if you do it in the fall, you can incorporate a lot of organic matter, like I was saying, like with the leaves and the coffee grounds. So now that the soil's warm, it feels early because it's March, but we're gonna go ahead and plant peas. Anyway, so here's what I'm gonna do with these roots. You know, some people wouldn't do this, but I'm not shy about getting this not root bound, right? You could like really get into this, but the ends of the roots are what I want to grow out, really, right? Does that make sense? So that's what I do kind of on all of these. Open it up. Kind of firm it in. I'm firming that in and planting it deep.
So far, we have started peas here in the front, and then we are doing spinach, lettuce, spinach. Then we're gonna do two rows back there of seeds, and those will be carrots and beets. Next we have onions, and after that there will be lettuce.
Today is tomato planting day. Unbury that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so then what we can do is also pinch off these, right? And the soil's actually pretty moist because I ran the drip irrigation on it today. So we actually, if your soil's dry in the hole, another tip is you can water the hole like before you put the plant in. You really need to do that. You don't want to put these into dry soil. So I took those leaves off too, and we'll probably plant it, leave these, we'll see. And we'll put it in. There we go. That looks pretty good. And just fill your soil back in. There's a worm. And this soil in this raised bed has a lot of organic matter. It's a super rich soil. It's very loose, as you can see. So I kind of firm it in on the plant, right? If you think about that, we buried, you know, almost half the stem. And one thing that we do to monitor for it is we check the undersides of the leaves, and this is the eggs of the leaf miner. So we're just gonna rub those off, kind of smush them as you go. The way we harvest all of our leafy greens is when they get to about this size, we take just the biggest leaves off. So I'm just gonna grab the largest leaves of spinach on all of these and maybe do 3 or 4 leaves per group. Per plant, yeah, and then take those off. And I'd actually probably do that before I look for leaf miner, because then I don't have to take them off each one. But and then the same with the lettuce. So we love peppers. We grow all kinds of different varieties because we think it's fun to have different ones. But we kind of like ones that are a little bit ornamental. And of course, the jalapeno in here, we can make some salsa with our tomatoes. We have a little bit of cilantro that we'll be planting. Okay, same thing with the pepper. We kind of spread out the roots, right? And then gonna need a little bit more wider hole, I think. And then we're gonna plop it in. Here, you know, I'm gonna plant it still a little bit deeper. You can see how, it's probably hard to see in the camera, but that's maybe a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch deeper. Same thing, we're gonna water that in. Really soak it. You can see how on this marigold, all the water already drained. So these beds have really good drainage. And let's plant the celery real quick. So we're gonna put celery in the gap there, in between. So the pattern is pepper, celery, okay? And it's gonna look pretty cool. And then the spinach and lettuce, remember, will come out, so then they'll have more space. Same with the flower. You can see these are our peas, and they're flowering. If you missed the other videos, we mentioned that this is a dwarf variety, so it only grows about 2 feet tall and then puts on a quick crop, which is cool because we're gonna plant squash after it. And we've been harvesting spinach and lettuce. We've already gotten, I'd say, maybe 5 pounds or so. Well, maybe not quite that much. The spinach and lettuce, and if you saw the other videos, the way we harvest those is just by taking the largest outer leaves off. Okay, just like that. Same with the lettuce. You can see our tomato plants are doing pretty well. Here then, we've got marigold and then basil. And we'll plant it out. Got an ambulance. Foodscaping in the city, right? Okay, that looks really good. We'll just water that in. Here's our peas. We're getting lots of peas now. And these are a snap pea. And most of the flowers are already forming pods, which that's a sign that in a few weeks we'll be ready to pull it out. So what we've done is already started the seed. Just, what was that, yesterday, Holly? A couple days ago? Holly's behind the camera. A couple days ago we started seed for squash that we'll plant here right when we pull these out in about 2 to 3 weeks. The main thing we wanted to focus on was that we're pulling out the spinach now, and then we're gonna have to pick this lettuce hard to make sure it doesn't flower in the next few days as the heat's really cranking up. I think I saw 97 on Friday, Holly. So it's gonna be hot. We went from cool to hot a little too fast, of course, but that's what happens here in Utah in June. All right, we just cut out all the spinach, and we wanted to give you a shot of what it looks like now that we got it cut out. Ton of spinach came out, so our spinach harvest is going to be well worth it. We will blanch the rest of that, and we'll have spinach for the winter. And just a shot of what the space looks like now. You can see the peppers and the celery have a lot more room now. The tomatoes too, behind them, they don't have all the spinach. It's June 23rd today, and we got a lot to do. So we're going to cut out the peas, plant some squash for a second crop there. We're gonna train some of the tomatoes. We're gonna take a look at our peppers, cut out the rest of the lettuce, and maybe harvest some carrots and beets. As you can see, we took all the peas out, planted the squash, and when you're transplanting, particularly squash, cucumber, pumpkin, anything in the cucurbit family, you do want to be a little bit more delicate on the roots. You'll see when we transplanted these, we teased them out really carefully. Tomatoes, they respond really well to transplant, but cucurbits, you need to be a little bit more delicate and then make sure they have plenty of water in the transition time. Another quick tip there is we planted these in the evening before a little bit of cool weather, and we actually even got a little bit of rain this morning. We got those in, we're excited about that. Now, the other thing that we wanted to show in this video is a little bit of tomato pruning. You don't really have to prune tomatoes. And there's always debates on whether it's worth it or not. The main thing in this particular setting for pruning for me is to keep it kind of managed and organized. We don't want the tomatoes taking over the entire bed. This is what's called a sucker. You can see it's growing out of the axle. So this will like form a new branch. You could, right? So I'm gonna take that out. That's a sucker there. This is growing totally the wrong way. It's gonna end up over here. But I think I'm gonna wanna save the fruit there. So what we'll do here is cut it back right here. Okay, and that should still develop fruit, but now it's not gonna produce a bunch more growth this way. And this is when the multi-cropping gets exciting. We're gonna really start harvesting now. We've got carrots, We're gonna harvest an onion, some beets, a bunch of carrots, and then we're gonna start sowing for the fall now as the space starts opening up. You can see right here, when they're getting ready to harvest, you can see they start to swell up right here, and then you can just pull them out. So I'm gonna take this beet, since it's a really big one, and this one out, and then that'll give a little bit more space for these that haven't developed into roots yet. So these onions really need about 2 more weeks, but so we can have an onion for dinner tonight, we'll take this biggest one out now. And then that's the same thing where if you twist that out, those ones will get bigger now, and they have another couple weeks at least to grow bigger. So the other trick for getting the carrot seed to germinate, I've already done it, but you can see here I kind of have a little trench, right? I don't know how well you can see it, but it's an indent here. And then I've filled that with water several times to make sure it's moist underneath where the carrots are gonna be, okay? And then when we sow carrots, we try to do just a couple every inch or so. That's how I like to do them. And then we'll thin them later. I don't know how well you can see them, but you should get the idea. What we'll do is we'll put this wood here, okay? And then that shades the bed, or shades the row, I should say. We'll end up having it like this. I would, after about 3 days, come out and start checking every day. Because as soon as the carrots germinate, you need to get even the very first one, you need to get the boards off of there so they don't get really leggy, because they'll struggle to get the light. And if they get leggy, they're not going to grow well. What we're going to do with these beans is sow right here, and this is only about 3 inches from these carrots, but remember they're going to come out, and the beans we're going to do 1 every 3 inches or so. And the nice thing about them, they're a lot easier to germinate in this kind of weather. You want to go down at least like 1 inch, and then I actually got 3 different colors of beans. This row of carrots will kind of shade that as those come up. So that's a relay crop where the timing should be that as soon as those come up, and that might happen in 5 days, 5 to 7 days, then we need to really start pulling the carrots out to get the light. The next step is when the onions come out, in between there, there'll be another row of beans and 1 more row of carrots mixed in there. So.
In this front row here, our carrots are coming in very nicely. The cilantro and dill are starting to flower, so they will come out. We have bush beans here that we've planted, and as you can see, they're already really producing a lot of beans in here. We've been harvesting off of these already. These are the burgundy bush beans. We did a tricolor, so there's burgundy and there's yellow and there's green. We have a couple rows of those. In between we have the carrot row. And you can see that our marigold is really loving it in there. Our tomatoes have started to really go crazy. We've been harvesting tomatoes. We have a couple peppers in here that are really producing. We got jalapenos and some yellow pepper, or some orange peppers, sweet peppers. And then the other thing that's the big change is we got our squash trellis up.
Got some squash here that I wanted to show you real quick. You can see the squash plant itself is probably hurting for water a little bit and sunlight, but hopefully we can get these to ripen up before frost. The tomatoes are doing fine and they're producing like crazy. Just picked a whole bunch. And they don't need a lot of water to ripen them. So what I've been doing is pruning off some of the new growth that won't have time to fully ripen, and that'll hopefully help the plant focus more energy on ripening the fruit it has. This is going to be our last harvest day of the year. These are the best carrots of the year. Yeah, I think it is forked. No, it's a big one. They're not all that big. All right.
All right.
Is that it? Okay, we just got done harvesting the carrots. We're gonna go weigh them. We're super excited to see how much it is because we've already harvested over 150 pounds out of this bed. So we'll weigh those and then we'll let you know how what the grand total is for this bed. This One Bed Veg has been fantastic this year. We've had tomatoes, squash, lettuce, spinach. Gosh, what all have we had? Beans, green beans, lots of carrots. We did a spring carrot and a fall carrot. The total is going to be awesome and the production's been really good. So now that it's the end of the year, the next thing that we got to do is prep it for next year. So we need to replenish the soil. We're going to add some coffee grounds. This is a 5-gallon bucket of coffee grounds that we got from a local coffee shop. They're more than happy to give them away, which is fantastic. And these are leaves we actually got for free also from a neighbor who's more than happy to give them away. We did mulch them, so they're in smaller pieces. To mulch, we just put them through a lawnmower that can mulch them back. And we've got a really nice one that's actually battery powered. And then this is finished compost from the local city green waste facility, which is fantastic. So we get some of that and we make a lot of our own compost too, and you can put that in. But the process then will be the coffee grounds first, just basically in a layer, the leaves over the top of that in another layer. Doesn't have to be that thick, and then compost to top it off. And that'll be it for the winter. And then we'll be able to grow more food in it next year. And the fantastic thing with replenishing it this way in the fall, it all has time to break down and the worms incorporated over the winter. So we're feeding the soil life, the microbiology. It gets it all nutrient dense. And a lot of people are surprised to hear this, but we don't actually have to fertilize at all because the soil is so rich and the life is doing so good. So this One Bed Veg has been great. I hope you really enjoyed this series and the videos. Thanks for watching Foodscaping Utah, and grow your own.